In this short, we LL read a Reddit post from a guy who survived a plane crash, but didn't survive what happened next. So this guy survived the plane crash, but he didn't survive what happened next. The story comes from a Reddit user. I was flying with a friend of mine who had just gotten his pilot's license. He wanted to go up and show off to his girlfriend. We were flying a small plane, probably a Cessna 1072, something like that. It was his dad's plane. We took off from an airport in Washington State and headed toward an island about 80 miles away. The conditions were great, visibility was perfect, and we were having a wonderful time. About halfway there, we started picking up some altitude, because we were flying on a really hot day, and that was not helping our performance. We needed to get over some mountains, but with the lack of power, we weren't going to make it. We circled around looking for a place to land. We couldn't see anything because the smoke and the haze were so bad. Just when we thought we were going to make it, we lost all engine power, and we went down. We hit the side of the mountain, and the plane cartwheeled. I blacked out during the crash, but I don't remember much after that. When I came to, I was lying on my back with my parachute still on. The plane was crumpled up on top of me, and my friend was nowhere to be seen. I managed to get myself out from under the plane, and I saw my friend laying a few feet away from me. He had no face. The impact had literally caved in his entire face. I felt for a pulse, turned him over, tried mouth-to-nose resuscitation, but there was nothing I could do. He was dead. With my heart pounding and adrenaline flowing, I made my way to the top of the mountain. From there, I could see a road and some houses. I started walking toward them. I figured someone would come looking for me. It had uneven been an hour since the crash, and I knew they wouldn't find my body in the wreckage. I walked out onto the road and I started hitchhiking. Within a few minutes, a couple of guys in a pickup truck offered me a ride into town. They drove me to the hospital, gave me some water, and then they left. At this point, I'm covered in blood. My whole body is aching, and every instinct in my body is telling me to go home and go to sleep. But I knew I couldn't do any of that. I didn't have any cell service, and I had no idea where I was. I sat down in the hospital lobby and I started asking questions. That's when I learned the news about the plane crash, and I learned that my name had been put out over the radio. Also learned that a rescue helicopter was on its way. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, a pair of state troopers walked in. They asked me if I was involved in the plane crash, and I said yes. They then told me that I was lucky to be alive, but they needed to ask me some questions. I agreed, but at this point I was getting overwhelmed. I'd been through so much and I was starting to feel very faint. The last thing I remember was the trooper kneeling down in front of me and asking me why I killed my friend. What? I didn't kill my friend. The look on his face when I told him that must have been priceless. I wonder what he thought I was hiding. I tried to explain that we had crashed and that my friend was dead, but those troopers didn't want to hear it. Apparently I had blood all over my clothes and I was covered in cuts and bruises. And the only explanation I could give was that I'd been in a plane crash. They ended up throwing me in jail for the night until I could be examined by a doctor. Yeah, that was a weird story. Why did they think OP killed his friend? Because he found him in the wreckage, and he was covered in blood. Plus, the plane was destroyed. So how did OP get to the hospital without anyone driving him? Maybe the two guys who gave him a ride were accomplices. They staged the crash, and then they killed the pilot. Who knows, but anyways, that was the end of the story. So thanks for listening, and see you in the next one.